Alright guys, so today we're going to be doing another short video on perpendicular bisector on a coordinate plane. So there's a few steps to this, so it can be a little tricky, but I'll walk you through each step once we get to them. So first of all, let's talk about what does perpendicular mean. Alright, so we've already talked about this. Perpendicular means that you've got two lines or segments that form a 90-degree angle. So two lines or segments that form a 90-degree angle are perpendicular. And as far as slope goes, remember that perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay, that's really important to remember for what we're going to be doing today, because we'll be using opposite reciprocal slopes. So for example, if the slope of one line is 4/5, then a line that's perpendicular to that line is going to have a slope of negative 5/4. Notice they have opposite signs, one's positive, one's negative, and they're reciprocals, which means they're fractions that flipped upside down, 4/5 and 5/4. All right, now what is a bisector? Okay, a bisector is one of our vocabulary words. A bisector is a line that passes through a midpoint of a segment or angle, or the middle of the angle. So essentially a bisector is a line that cuts a segment or an angle in half, cuts it into two equal pieces. So the key is that it's going to pass through the midpoint. That's the important thing to remember about a bisector. It's got to go through the midpoint. So what is a perpendicular bisector? Well, it's just a combination of the two things. It's a line that forms a 90-degree angle and goes to the middle. Form a 90-degree angle at the midpoint. Okay, so now let's actually look at the steps. So the steps to make a perpendicular bisector on the coordinate plane. First step is you're just going to plot the 2 points and draw a line to connect them. So let's look at a problem real quick and do that on this one. So we want to find the equation of the perpendicular bisector to the segment that has these 2 points as endpoints. So first thing we're going to do is make those points on the graph 5, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that point's going to be right there. And then the point 7, negative 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, negative 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's that point. And we want to connect them. Alright, so let's see if I can use the little straight line tool here. Make it a little easier. Go. Alright, so there's our first step. That's all you got to do on the first step is draw the 2 points and connect them. Second step we're going to do is we're going to find the slope of the line. Okay, now once you graph it, slope is rise over run. Okay, so let me label our steps. That was step 1. Step 2 is to find the slope, rise over run. So in this situation, our rise, start with a point on the left and count. So if we go down, rise is going to be negative. If we got to go up, rise will be positive when you start on the left. So start on the left, we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So since we go down 14, it's negative 14 is the rise. And then once we go down 14, we've got to run 2. So that means our slope is negative 7. So there's step 2. Let's look at step 3. Find the perpendicular slope. All right, so now we've got to figure out, well, what's the slope that's perpendicular to that slope? Remember, slopes that are perpendicular are opposite reciprocals. So if the slope is negative 7, we need to do the opposite reciprocal of that. So we're going to make it a positive, and since this is 7/1, we're going to flip it. So we make it positive 1/7. Okay, so that is the slope that is perpendicular to the slope of the line that we've got on our graph right now. So that's what we're going to use for step 4. which says to find the midpoint of the line. Now, the midpoint, we have a formula for it. We should already know. Midpoint formula tells us to add the x coordinates and divide by 2, and add the y coordinates and divide by 2. So let's do that. Our x coordinates are 5 and 7, so we got 5 plus 7 over 2, and our y's are 10 and negative 4 over 2. Okay, so when we add those, 5 plus 7 is 12, divided by 2 is 6, 10 plus negative 4 is 6, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that would be our midpoint of the line. Right, and you can graph it and see. So if we go over 6 and up 1, 2, 3, right there would be our midpoint. And as you can tell, it looks like it's right in the middle. Right, let's go look at the last step now. So the last step says to use the point-slope form to write the equation of the perpendicular bisector. Okay, so point-slope form. We've got to remember that point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So this is going to be our slope m that we'll plug in, that we found in step 3, and then the midpoint that we found in step 4 is the point we use. So we're going to plug those into point-slope form. Y minus the y coordinate, 3, equals m 1/7 times x minus the x coordinate, which was 6. Then we distribute 1/7 times x. 1/7 times 6 is just 6/7. And then the last one we need to do is add 3. So whenever I add 3, I'm going to get y equals 1/7 x, and negative 6/7 plus 3 is going to be 15/7. All right. So this is our equation. This is our answer. It's the equation of the perpendicular bisector. If we graph that, it will go through that point, at that midpoint, and be perpendicular. So let's look at 15/7 would be our y-intercept, which is 2 and about a 7th. So just about right in there. And then from there it says to go up 1 over 7. So we go up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're right around in there, a little bit above the line. And as you can see, this would go right through that, and that's going to be perpendicular to that line. So it's a perpendicular bisector, it's perpendicular, and it goes to the midpoint. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause it and let you guys try to go through those steps. Take each step one at a time and do this next problem right here, see if you can get it by yourself. Okay, so follow the steps one by one and try to do it yourself. Go ahead and pause it and give it a try. Okay, so the first step to making a perpendicular bisector here is to graph these 2 points. So 0, 4 is the point that would go right there, and negative 1, negative 2 will be right there. We'll connect them, and that's step 1. Step 2 is to find the slope of the 2 points. So we count rise and run. We go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and run 1. So our rise is 6, our run is 1. So the slope of the line is 6. The next step is to find the perpendicular slope to that slope, if you're following along step by step. So we're going to take that slope 6 over 1, and we're going to do 2 things. Remember, we're going to flip it, put 1 over 6, and then you've also got to change the sign. So it was positive, we're going to make it negative. So this is the slope that we're going to use for our equation. Fourth step is to use the midpoint formula to find the midpoint of the line. So remember, that's where you add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, and divide by 2. So when we do that, we add 0 to negative 1 and divide by 2. And we add 4 to negative 2 and divide by 2. 0 plus negative 1 is negative a half. And 4 and negative 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So our midpoint is at negative a half, 1, which is right about there. All right, so last step, and the most tricky one, is to take that point and that slope and put them into point-slope form. So remember, point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we're going to plug in the point that we use for x1 and y1 and the slope that we found in step 3 for the slope, m. So y minus the y coordinate was 1. So y minus 1 equals m, which was negative 1/6 times x minus the x coordinate, which was negative a half. So we minus a negative, which makes it into a plus. Now you distribute. Negative 1/6 times x is negative 1/6x. Negative 1/6 times a half is negative 1/12, because you do top times top and bottom times bottom. All right, then we add 1. So y is going to equal negative 1/6 x, and negative 1/12 plus 1 is 11/12. So there's the equation for our line. If we graph that, it should be perpendicular to the line that we've got. So if I graph the y-intercept 11/12, that's almost 1. And then I go down 1, right 6. So down 1, right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Read it right around in there. And if we drew a line straight through that, it's going to go straight through that point right there and be perpendicular. All right, so appreciate your all's time. Let's go ahead and practice.